All right. I think it's fair to have this discussion at this point. The Sean McDermott discussion. So Bills coming off of a loss. I talked about on the podcast. Also, sorry, the lighting's a little bit weird when my lights went out, so that's why I look a little bit weird here. But anyway, I talked about on the podcast how for Sean McDermott and for the Buffalo Bills, they, I thought that if they lost this game, it might be time for him to go. That's what I was thinking, and my reasoning was, well, if you're not going to beat the Chiefs now when they're having one of their worst seasons they've ever had, when are you going to beat them? I think it's a fair discussion to have. But again, do you fire someone off of just one game? Well, no. But could one game be the straw that breaks the camel's back? I think so. First, let's talk about this game, and then we'll talk about his tenure as a whole. Again, some people might say, hey, it was like Tyler Bass makes that field goal, then whatever, right? Well, again, I would say not exactly because of how bad this defense played against the Chiefs. And the Chiefs are amazing, right? Patrick Mahomes is amazing. We don't, I was gonna say that you got to give him credit, but we know the Chiefs are amazing. We know the Chiefs are fantastic, but they gave up 3.8 yards per play, or excuse me, 3.8 points per drive. Yards per play would be great. 3.8 points per drive in this game. That's terrible. 2.8 is terrible. Like anything over 3 is a godly offensive performance. They had 3.8, and that's with a goal line fumble. If they scored a touchdown on that, it would have been 4.8 points per drive. That's over half of a touchdown a drive, basically. So the defense was terrible. And again, this is multiple times they've wasted a unbelievable Josh Allen performance against the Kansas City Chiefs. So to me, I think, and again, I would also throw in, this is multiple times we've seen the Bills, underperforming the playoff or underperforming the regular season is what I mean to say. Because again, that 2 years ago, that loss to the Chiefs, that was also an 11-6 team. So this is now multiple times we've seen this similar situation where a team that underperforms, loses games consistently that they have no business losing, even against Pittsburgh. Like, that was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. There was no reason that should have been a one-score game in the fourth quarter. So let's go through it. Sean McDermott was hired in 2017. And one thing I think if Sean McDermott gets fired, I think a team would pick him up, and I think a team should pick him up, right? Because what he did to kind of lift the Bills from, I don't want to say nothing, because 3 years prior, they actually were 500 in that stretch. They were 9-7, 8-8, and then 7-9, but it wasn't great. And so adding McDermott, I think he did a lot to get the culture back. And again, obviously getting Allen helps, but he deserves, part of the credit for getting Brian Daboll on the staff and developing Allen, right? Allen was very much a project. Allen was not a finished product when he entered the NFL by any means. But again, 2017, they made the playoffs. He did have a weird moment there where he benched Tyrod Taylor for Nathan Peterman. If you remember, that's when the infamous Nathan Peterman game happened, and Taylor came back. Taylor eventually, was able to win enough games. They made the playoffs either way with 9-7. Got smoked by smoked is too hard of a word. They lost 10-3 to the Jaguars, but they weren't going to do much against that Jaguars defense. That was a great year. That's one of the feathers in his cap. 2018, they missed the playoffs, but got a good enough draft pick that they could trade up and get, or actually, no, that was Josh Allen's first year. That was Josh Allen's first year. So you're developing him there. And then year 2, they have a great defense, and they make the playoffs. Now, they lose to the Texans in overtime. That was that kind of, Deshaun Watson had a great play in overtime. I remember Josh Allen had kind of a wild game. Again, he wasn't a finished product. It was 2020 that Allen really was, incredible, and they were able to start going on a going from being a playoff team to a championship contender because you had a great unit, and then you added an elite quarterback to that unit. That's the 1 year they've made it to the conference championship. All this talk about Baltimore making it, never making it to the conference championship. Well, now Baltimore and Buffalo have the same amount. This is the 1 year they were able to do it, and they beat Baltimore in the divisional round. They also beat the Colts. That was a close game, though. If you remember, they were a 2 seed, Phillip Rivers 7 seed. That was a close game. They played really well against the Ravens. 100-yard pick six helps, but played really well against the Ravens, and then kind of got crushed by the Chiefs in the conference championship game. The following year, that was what I talked about, the 13-second game against the Chiefs. They did have a great first matchup against New England, but then struggled And then last year, they had the situation where they played against the Dolphins in round one. That was the Skylar Thompson-led Dolphins, and that was still a 3-point game, which was weird. And I think the Dolphins even had a chance to drive down the field and tie it late, so that was crazy. And then they got smoked by the Bengals. And then this year, again, they won by 14 to Pittsburgh, but that was a closer game than it had to be. And now waste a great Josh Allen performance. So this is becoming a trend for Sean McDermott and not a positive trend by any means. So do you fire someone like that? Again, just going through the list. I mean, how many years did they meet expectations? I think 2020, when they got to the conference championship, they got smoked by the Chiefs, but I would say they met expectations. The conference championship, hard to argue with that. Again, would you have liked to do better? Sure. I think they met expectations there. You could argue they didn't in 2019 against Houston, but that was kind of considered to be a competitive game going in. I'm not going to hold that against them. So, first really 3 postseasons, because the Tyrod Taylor year as well, they met expectations, but, 2 of those, they still went 1 and done. And since then, again, I don't know. I feel like they've underperformed. I mean, they've underperformed. They've, in the past 3 playoff runs, they've lost games that they were favored to win. So it's clearly been a disappointment. Now, the question is, do you move off of Sean McDermott when you don't know who you're going to get, right? And in many ways, you can see the logic behind it. Here's what I'm thinking is, listen, I think Sean McDermott's an amazing coach. And I think even in this game, there was some great coaching stuff, especially offensively. But clearly, Andy Reid has his number. And for Sean McDermott, I think at the very least, make a defensive coordinator change. Not because Leslie Frazier is bad. He's really good. But the Chiefs have his number. And at the end of the day, you're into AFC, you're going to have to deal with the Chiefs. The AFC still runs through Kansas City. They're playing road games now, but this is the 6th year in a row they're in the conference championship. So every team that has made it to Super Bowl since Mahomes has been a starter, it was either the Chiefs or the team that beat the Chiefs, right? You got to beat a team that beats the Chiefs, and to do that, you have to be able to get any stops, and they just weren't able to get any stops in this game. And again, I know the Bills' defense had injuries. They have players, though. This is not a talentless roster, and this was a defensive unit that have been playing well coming into this game. So this is, to me, a disappointment. And would I fire McDermott? I really think that you could argue either way. I really do. I don't think it's an easy decision, but again, at a certain point, you got to say, like, enough is enough. You're like, yes, we've had a great success in your tenure, but we've had, in my opinion, a top 3 quarterback in that stretch. I think Josh Allen is up there with, I guess you could say top 4, but I don't know. You could argue top 2. I mean, you really could. Obviously, Mahomes is 1. To me, Allen, Lamar, and Burrow, I guess I'll say top 4. I'm not sure who I'd have in that order, but those are the top 4. To me, Allen is in that stretch. And, Burrow's made a Super Bowl. Obviously, Mahomes is Mahomes. Lamar has now, again, they had their own criticisms. I think at a certain point, like, enough is enough. So, I got to give a take. I can't just be on the fence. I'll say sure. I'll say, yeah, I would fire McDermott here. But again, I understand the logic either way. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.